Another way to get in and out of striking range is by executing step motions. Try using a step back to avoid attacks, or a step into your opponent when you're close to them to shove them away and create some distance. If you want to close the distance quickly, try dashing towards your opponent. Some fighters are effective from both orthodox or southpaw stances. Here's how to switch your stance. Go ahead and try to execute a step, dash, or stance switch action now. You can also close the distance while striking. Here you'll see how to perform stepping attacks. If you're feeling really aggressive, here's how to perform a dash attack. Both step and dash attacks are strong strikes capable of knocking your opponent out. Try landing some step or dash attacks now. Striking with the right timing will allow you to string together some truly devastating combos. Some strikes chain together much faster than others. For example, throwing a left punch and then a right punch is a traditional boxing combination and flows more naturally than throwing two right punches in a row. You'll have to experiment to see what works best for you. It's usually more effective to start a combo with a quick strike. You can start a combo with strong strikes, but it's a bit slower and limits your options. For instance, you won't be able to combo a strong strike to a quick strike. Okay, let's work on some combinations. Technique strikes are patented moves that vary from fighter to fighter and will add a dynamic range of attacks to your arsenal. Some technique strikes can only be performed after a step motion, so experiment with many different fighters to see them all. Go ahead and try out some technique strikes now. The best way to avoid a strike is to not be there when it's thrown. Here you'll see how to perform sways and avoid incoming attacks. Dodging attacks like this can be much more effective than simply guarding because it gives you the opportunity to counter with a sway strike. Perform a strike while swaying away from an attack to take advantage of the opening. Time for you to practice landing some sway strikes. If you connect with a strike just as your opponent attacks, it will do more damage than normal and stop their strike from landing. There are two types of counter hits, major and minor. A major counter does more damage and occurs when your strike lands just as your opponent begins to attack. A minor counter occurs when your strike connects as your opponent's attack is ending. Let's see you land some counter strikes. You can rock your opponent if you land continuous strikes to the head or body. While they're rocked, they'll be very vulnerable, so don't let up. This is the perfect opportunity for you to finish the fight.
Let's go, come on!
Try to rock and TKO the opponent now.
Protect yourself, I'm gonna stop the fight!
In certain clinch positions, you'll have the opportunity to throw your opponent. Throws can do a good deal of damage and put the fight on the mat with authority. To prevent being thrown by an opponent, you'll need to block, as seen here. Your turn to perform some throws. Fighters well trained in Muay Thai can execute a strong whip from the Muay Thai clinch position. This will yank your opponent to one side, opening them up to your powerful knee strikes. Try landing a few strong whip knees from the Muay Thai clinch. Not all countering is done with strikes. If you execute a takedown just as your opponent strikes, you will immediately take them down. Try to time it so you shoot in just as your opponent is committing to their strike. Let's see you perform a takedown as the opponent strikes. In MMA, the ground game and clinch aren't all about grappling technique, they're striking too. And one way to cancel an opponent's transition attempt is by landing a strong strike to their head. If your opponent throws a strike to block your transition, try to guard the incoming attack and then attempt it again. Prevent the opponent from transitioning by landing a strong strike. Another way to escape a position is by performing a transition reversal as the opponent attempts a transition. A transition reversal is a very effective move, especially from the bottom position. If you time it right, you'll sweep your opponent and end up on top. This is a great way to either execute your own top game or put the fight back on the feet. Time for you to attempt some transition reversals. Technique transitions are more powerful than normal transitions. They can also allow you to sweep your opponent or even enter new, more dominant positions. Each UFC fighter has different technique transitions, so experiment with different fighters to see them all. Let's see you perform some technique transitions. Your opponent opens up every time he throws a strike. If you can time it right, you can catch his strike and initiate a submission attempt. Some fighters who are not as skilled in jiu-jitsu can still catch an incoming strike, but will pull the opponent down to a clinch position instead. Now it's your turn. Try to catch the opponent's strike to initiate a submission. The submission game is highly technical, and some fighters have the ability to initiate submission combos. Submission combos, or submission switching, is especially useful if it looks like your opponent might escape and scramble to a dominant position. Performing a submission switch will give you that extra time needed to try and finish off the opponent. Submission combo attempts require a lot of cardio, so you can only attempt this if you have enough energy remaining. The on-screen indicator will display if a submission combo can be performed, so keep an eye out for it. Let's see you perform a submission switch. You can get the upper hand in a fight by backing your opponent into the cage and entering a cage position. Control the fight by cutting off your opponent's movements and cornering them. Then try to press them against the cage to inflict more damage. Try to get the opponent into a cage position.